Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, developers seal the deal on a prominent property near downtown Indy. We preview the Mira Awards, celebrating the best in tech. Terre Haute marks momentum. Indy's international marketplace continues to take shape. How can IoT help the disabled? Butler University creates a second lab school, and our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Ambrose Property Group's acquisition of the former General Motors stamping plant property near downtown Indianapolis is now complete. The developer's long-term vision is a more than 15-year, $500 million transformation, including residential, office, hotel, and retail components. Senior Vice President Andrew Greenwood and Director of Marketing and Community Initiatives Molly Simone Jeffers joined Inside Indiana Business Television host Gary Dick to talk about the project.
Andrew, I'll start with you. This is a big project, and it's a very high-profile piece of property that folks have been looking at for a long time. As you begin this project, you've closed on the deal now, and look at the potential for this site. What's the vision?
The vision is exactly what you talked about, Gary. It is a massive mixed-use urban district. It's our chance to look at 103 acres as a blank canvas and turn it into a whole new city. It's adjacent to the river. It's part of downtown. It's exactly what we want to do here to make this into a first-class destination.
Yeah, and I assume, to put this in perspective, this has to be rather unique to have this size of essentially a greenfield, an open slate, near water, right in a downtown, one of the unique spots around the country.
Yeah, it's really around the world. As we have investigated this property and trying to figure out what we wanted to do, we looked internationally, we looked nationally, we looked in Indiana, and there's nothing that compares. Nowhere else in the world can you find 100 acres right next to the river that's in a major metropolitan city.
Yeah, Molly, the process is just starting right now, and I know as we talked in the social media lounge, an important part is community engagement and outreach. And that process has already begun as you talk with arts groups, neighborhood groups, and others.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Community engagement has been a priority for Ambrose since the very beginning, and we're committed to listening to the surrounding neighborhood, to the valley, the neighborhood closest to the site, and collaborating and sharing information now and throughout the duration of the project.
How about the unique, again, the aspect of water? The White River, obviously it's been there for a long time, but has never been really leveraged. People have talked about it, but haven't really leveraged the water from an economic development standpoint.
That's true. The White River is our largest natural asset, and I think this is an opportunity to celebrate it as such.
Andrew, you talked, I think, on Inside Indiana Business Radio this week about creating a 20-minute neighborhood or 20-minute neighborhoods, that kind of concept. What's that all about?
So what that means, we'll have separate character areas that will have distinct elements, and so they might be residential in nature, multifamily, or commercial, whatever they may be. But what that means is that as a whole, this whole community, it'll be a 20-minute neighborhood. So you'll be able to take care of all of your daily needs, whether you're a resident, whether you're a tenant, or you're a visitor, and take care of all of those within a 20-minute walk. Yeah. So it really, it opens and expands the opportunity for this area and for the downtown to expand.
Yeah. Have to ask you, everybody's talking about Amazon and the Amazon HQ2, the second headquarters, and certainly this site has been talked about as potentially a key site for Amazon. How does that factor into these plans?
What an exciting opportunity for Indianapolis, really for the state of Indiana. I think it proves and validates that the city and state are national tech powerhouses. Right now it's a little premature, and so what we're really looking forward to is collaborating, focused on making this site a world-class destination, working with the community, working with the city and the state and the stakeholders to make this a transformative area.
Yeah, very good. Molly, as you look, any concerns being raised right now? Or what's kind of the feedback you're getting from residents, in the area as they look forward to what this might become?
We've had a really broad base of support from residents and civic groups and stakeholder organizations, and the success of the project really will depend on continued partnership and collaboration with those residents.
Yeah, in terms, as we wrap up, Andrew, in terms of a timetable, the remediation work that was needed is done. How about what's next?
Yeah, so we've already obtained our project agreement and some initial city funding. And so what we're working on right now is the design of initial stormwater infrastructure and some road infrastructure, and the implementation of that will start later this year.
Yeah, some activity this year.
Yeah,
okay,
2018.
very good. Andrew Greenwood and also Molly Simone Jeffers, thanks very much. It is a big project. I know we'll be covering it a lot in the future. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Still to come, Terre Haute celebrates a couple of big projects and a spotlight on Indy's international marketplace. But first, this month's Mira Awards, celebrating the best of tech in Indiana, is expected to draw a record crowd of 1,300. The 19th annual awards attracted a record total of more than 200 applications. TechPoint CEO Mike Langelier came in studio to preview the event.
We'll get right to TechPoint before we get to some of those other tech developments. But the Mira Awards, 19th annual, hard to believe, 19 years. Last year was a record with 900 people, and you smashed that this year.
Yeah, the event sold out weeks ahead of the event. Now it's sold out at 1,300 attendees, which is the limit on how many people we can have in there. As you said in the intro, it's the 19th year. It's the biggest night for tech. It's like the Oscars for tech in Indiana. For people who haven't been there, it's 15 awards that are given for company awards for best tech company, best startup of the year, to product awards for best new product, to educator, tech educator, and then other people awards as well. So it's a big fun night.
Well, and what I think is interesting too is very much a statewide flavor.
It is.
And it's one night where you can see really the cool innovation, the entrepreneurship, the risk takers, everything that's going on. You hear about it piecemeal throughout the course of the year, but this is one night where everybody's in the same room.
It is, and you'll see featured in one room. We're very fortunate to have three of our most prominent tech companies in Salesforce, Angie's List, and Infosys that are there strong. But then you will have startup companies and educators and universities from all around the state that are all congregated downtown at the JW.
What is the importance in your view of this event? I mean, it's a fun night and it's great to recognize companies, but is there a bigger really benefit to this kind of event?
So we have had companies that have gone on the awards. It's a rigorous judging process. We had 52 volunteer judges that invested over 850 hours into the judging process. So it's a rigorous process. And so as the winners come out of it, we have had multiple companies that have landed investment and investors because of the visibility that they gained, have gained team members because people were attracted to the company because they heard about it through the Mira Awards. Lots of benefits toward helping to lift up those that are doing really significant things.
As you know full well, lots happening in the tech world in Indiana, not just here in central Indiana, but around the state this week. Mike, we saw some big funding news. HC1 landed $7 million. Demand jumped $6 million. So companies continue to attract capital. Yeah,
we're at $40 million just so far year to date, about $40 million in venture capital raise. You add on top of that $25 million from the company PFL, which is headquartered out west, but last year decided to make what they call their HQ East here in Indy and here in Indiana. And that's $65 million in total that's been announced just over the course of the last couple months, with some acquisitions of some notable companies as well, like Blue Lock and Octave and Bitwise Solutions, Spensa up in West Lafayette.
West Lafayette, South Bend Company.
Yep.
What do those acquisitions say to you, this momentum behind acquisitions?
So in a lot of these cases, we are bringing in, we're going to be inviting in companies from other places, other parts of the country. So it's a great opportunity to surprise them on the merits of business here. And we've seen the benefits of that with Salesforce and a bunch of other companies, Aperio, with Wipro. And I think it's the opportunity to do that again. All
right, Mike Langelier, CEO of TechPoint, thanks for joining us. Mira Awards, April 28th, going to be a big night. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later in the podcast, Indy's international marketplace looks to build a village, and an organization is helping to connect people with disabilities to the latest tech. But now, Terre Haute is celebrating the reopening of its Allura USA plant, which had closed in 2014, as well as an expansion of a FedEx ground distribution center in the city. Terre Haute Chamber of Commerce President David Haynes came on the show with more.
Several developments here in the first quarter or so of 2018 point to positive things. First of all, this week, kind of christening this Allura plant. The interesting element of that story is this is a plant that closed. So, really kind of a negative, disappointing story in 2014. It's kind of flipped around and it's open again.
Yeah, that's true, Gary. Allura was once part of the building boom toward the middle years of the 2000s, and then we had our economic struggles in 08 and 09. It took a real hit. And Allura is obviously very, very happy about starting their operation back up. They've got a great material that they put out, and they're excited with what the housing market has to offer for their product.
And I know they were talked very highly. It's a Texas-based parent company. Talked very highly about the workforce, and also, starting out with 60 employees, but the CEO of the company told us she could see that going to 150 over time.
That's my understanding, and the positive atmosphere at the ribbon cutting yesterday was just it permeated the room.
Not only that announcement, but within the last couple of weeks, FedEx Ground Transportation announcing a nice investment in the distribution center there in Terre Haute to expand.
Yes, FedEx needed some additional space, and they chose Terre Haute. I think it speaks well of all that FedEx is doing throughout our state, and we're excited to have that expansion.
What do these, obviously these mean jobs and investment in the community. Those are very positive. Terre Haute, West Central Indiana has suffered from some negative, some tough economic news. These positive announcements psychologically, I got to imagine, send a message.
They are invaluable, and what I found in the industries I've talked to that are up and coming, they're actually talking to some of the folks that worked at Sony, for instance, and Sony's done a fabulous job of helping their people find other opportunities.
As you look going forward, because I know you and others are very actively engaged in planning for the future, there's a West Central Indiana a strategic plan that has been released. The Chamber doing its own deal, and a lot of it deals with cooperation in the region.
We want to know what common needs our surrounding counties have, what common strengths we might have, and build on those strengths, identify the challenges, and see if we can, as a region, address them.
All right. Positive economic news. Two big announcements here in the last couple of weeks in Terre Haute and Vigo County. David Haynes with the Terre Haute Chamber. Thanks as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, how the Internet of Things can help the disabled, and Butler grows its lab school program. But first, leaders with the International Marketplace Coalition say a new $18 million mixed-use development is part of a plan to create a village on Indianapolis's west side. The organization is looking to develop what it calls an affordable alternative to downtown. Executive Director Mary Clark came in studio to detail the effort.
First of all, I want to talk about this LOFT project, which is very ambitious, a big project. But more broadly, the International Marketplace, this district, West Side Lafayette Square area for
Correct.
those around Indianapolis, but it's a 2 square mile area with a real focus on international flavor.
Yes, in that area, there is over 150 different languages spoken in that area. Yes, true. There's over 80 different ethnic restaurants, some 40 different ethnic markets, whether it's a grocery, bakery, or candy store, well over 800 different ethnic businesses. Now, this is what we tell people. Once you come inside our boundaries, we Americans, we become international.
Wow. Interesting. And it's really a change, if you will, in the branding there, the Lafayette Square area,
Yes.
as it was known. Now that's gone away to this international marketplace.
Yes. In approximately 2010, or a little bit before that, we started seeing a change in the demographics. As the traditional businesses were leaving the area, it kind of morphed into more of an international flavor. We started seeing businesses or owners from Ethiopia or Vietnam or wherever come around the world to settle in our area.
All right, let's talk about this first of what could be multiple big projects, the Hannah International Lofts, an $18 million project.
Yes. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm excited about this, that $18 million project is 22,000 square feet, 26,000 square feet of commercial retail space, that 90% of it is already leased up. Wow. We have a financial institution, we have an architectural firm going in there. We have a Mexican coffee shop coming to Indy.
Well, and as you look at that, that could be the first of multiple projects in that area.
The phone is already ringing.
Really? Yeah.
We've had developers start calling us already.
Yeah. What is your vision? You also have a vision for a global village in that area. Talk about that, because that's very ambitious.
So think about the Indianapolis Children's Museum, Disney's Epcot Center and Convention Center with an international flavor. We've already started this concept already in our building. We just recently moved from a 5,000 square foot facility to a 22,000. So in our building today, you can go to Africa and find artifacts from Africa or Europe or South America, Asia. Then you can also, we have space in there that you can have events. So we just this past Saturday, the India Association hosted their Holi, which is Festival of Colors. So we want to become that international destination.
Key part of the globalization of Indianapolis and Indiana taking place on the west side of Indianapolis, the International Marketplace. Mary Clark, the executive director of the coalition there. Thank you for joining us. We'll be following the story because I know you've got a lot planned in the months ahead. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Later in the podcast, Butler creates a second lab school and perspective on the week's top stories from our insiders. But now, Easter Seals Crossroads is helping people with disabilities connect to Internet of Things technology. The In Data project aims to help people with mobility, vision, hearing, or cognitive disabilities navigate the world around them. Director of Assistive Technology Brian Norton discussed the program with Barb Lewis in the Business of Health.
So here's about, a dozen or so of the, how many billion devices that there will soon be embedded with technology?
Yeah, so experts say there'll be 30 billion objects of Internet of Things types of devices by 2020. And, you think about the Internet of Things, you think about big business, manufacturing, logistics, those types of things. But I really arguably think it can make a huge impact in the lives of folks with disabilities.
Okay, and so how do you use for people with disabilities? How do you use technology to help them?
Sure. So Easter Seals Crossroads has been around for 80 years, doing all sorts of things for folks with disabilities. So to make sure that they are more independent, no matter what they're doing. That could be at work, at school, at home, or at play. But we also have an assistive technology department where we've been connecting people with devices and educating them about the different types of technologies that are out there to help them be more independent in those areas of their life.
Okay, so you've been doing this for 20 years, so you've seen technology change quite a bit. So how has your job changed in helping people?
Yeah, well, technology has become more user-friendly, more intuitive, easier to use. And so when I first started, it took a long time to help people get set up. Technology was a lot more expensive. And now, today, a lot of stuff is DIY, so do it yourself. And so you can find lots of technology out there at big box hardware stores and places like that. But when you put those things together and using us to kind of help educate you how to kind of connect those things, you can really do a lot of things for folks.
Okay, so what are some of the examples of things that, and maybe with the areas that make the most impact?
Sure. So things like monitoring individuals, things with mobility, environmental controls. There's just a whole lot of technology out there to help with folks. And so when you think about folks maybe who are deaf or hard of hearing, things in your home like fire alarms, smoke detectors, other kinds of things now send alerts to your smartphone. So instead of having a difficult time hearing something, now you're getting an alert that lets you know something's going on. Health and safety is a big impact there. Medically, when you think about all of the different things like activity trackers and smartwatches and healthcare devices now that are internet and app connected for individuals, you're providing real-time information back to your healthcare professionals so that they can then better help them help individuals know what to do and provide better care for folks. So
okay, so a lot of medical conditions can be helped. What you're saying with hearing, I would guess people with visual impairment also.
Right. Yeah. So like if you think about visual impairment, indoor navigation, there are things called I-beam modules, which you can place in and around a building to help folks as they navigate through a building, bring up alerts about where they are in the building, what they're next to, and help people navigate indoor, not just outdoors. So lots of different technologies for that.
Okay, and you meet the needs of from young children to elderly adults, really, at Easter Seals Crossroads.
Yeah, so all across the life spectrum, so all ages.
Okay, well, good luck navigating the 30 billion devices and helping people integrate them here in central Indiana. Brian, thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Still to come, our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. But first, thanks to the success of the 7-year-old IPS Butler Lab School, the district has asked the university to create a second. The project-based school has a large waiting list. College of Education Dean Ina Shelley has more on the concept and the second school in our Eye on Education segment.
Let's go back to the beginning and the launch of the first lab school in 2011. You really didn't have designs on doing more than that first school, right?
No, we didn't. We were thrilled that IPS gave us the opportunity, but our focus was to really see what we could learn and do in a community with a very different approach to education, and we thought it would just be the one school, and it has exceeded expectations in many ways.
Well, talk about that approach to education in the lab school. Give folks an example or an idea of what it's all about.
Sure. It's based upon the Reggio Emilia approach from Italy, which is the belief that children have 100 ways of learning. And so we teach a lot of ways to all children using the arts as a primary language, for example, a lot of project-based work. We document the children's work, so we make it very visible. So if you were to come into the school, you could read documentation and see artifacts and go, oh, this is what's happening in the school, and understand the learning process. And it's really resonated with parents and families.
Yeah, we'll talk about that demand, as I mentioned, a big wait list, and that prompted the creation of a second lab school, right?
Absolutely, which was a lovely surprise to have.
Yeah. What, in your view, diversity, being able to accommodate a lot of diverse learners, right?
Yes.
And understanding that kids, young people learn in many different ways. Is that kind of at the core of this popularity?
That is exactly at the core, that there are 100 ways of knowing, being, learning, and doing, and that we need to be able to teach in all those different ways.
Mm-hmm. As you look at reasons for success, you talk about the model, but also that connection to the private sector, to the corporate community, that has been very important to this as well.
It has been very important. In fact, I think one of the key ingredients of the success of this school has been our business partners, PNC Bank, Dow Agro, Duke Energy. They have been with us from the beginning and continue to be. And I think that partnership was one of the reasons we were recently selected by the National Association of the Colleges for Teacher Education as a model of best clinical preparation practice of teachers because of our work in the community with businesses.
How have you seen, you've been in education for a number of years, but the corporate community, you mentioned PNC and that focus on early education and other companies like Dow Agro and others. How have you seen that evolve and the importance of the corporate community really getting actively involved in education?
Oh, it has been wonderful because I think it has been a true learning community and a back and forth where we can bridge what is sometimes a gap between business and education of understanding how complex learning and teaching is, but then giving data that says this does work, and we must do that in education.
And there is a benefit, I know as we were talking off camera a moment ago, to having assets like the Butler IPS Lab School, now a second lab school, and folks like Visit Indy, it's really resonating.
It is resonating. Chris Gall has been to our school and wants to actually think about a way when he brings entities to the community to see this. We have a lot of visitors to the school from the state, but we also have a lot of visitors coming to us from out of state wanting to see this. So it's a good thing for Indianapolis.
Very good. Ina Shelley is the Dean of the College of Education at Butler University. A second Butler Lab School opening later on August, I think.
August 6th.
August 6th. You know the date. Okay,
I know the date.
Good. Ina, as always, thanks very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
And finally this week, our panel of insiders offers perspective on the week's top stories. This week's guests include Winston Terrell Group Principal Robin Winston, Women's Fund of Central Indiana Executive Director Jennifer Pope Baker, and Short Strategy Group Chairman and CEO Frank Short.
Frank, I'll start with you on our top story. The old GM stamping plant site near downtown Indianapolis, a 100-plus acre site that's been vacant for a number of years, been the subject of a lot of attention and speculation what's going to happen. Ambrose Property Group, and full disclosure, they're a client of yours, but give us your take. They've closed on the deal now. They have big plans for that property. What can that become?
Well, I think the first thing it's going to become is a transformative property for this city. You know, it's going to complete and connect our downtown. You know, all over the country, we're going to talk about Fort Wayne and other parts of the country that you've seen, these live, work, play experiences. And, you know, before we went on, we talked about it's a 15-year project. That's 15 years worth of jobs, 15 years worth of development, 15 years worth of new homes, families moving in, et cetera, et cetera. Connects well up the river, makes the White River an asset, connects up to IUPUI, 16 Tech all the way. It just completes that west side of our downtown, and I think that's what makes it so transformative.
And Jennifer, as Frank said, it connects a whole new area of town, jumps the White River from downtown to start development there, but importantly for neighborhoods and communities in that part of the city that have, you know, you could make the case have been neglected for a long time.
Well, and the near west side, they've got great community supports from community centers and a lot of innovation in small businesses. You keep on going down Washington Street, it's small business after small business after small business. And so those folks are going to have an opportunity to participate in a new way when that's fully developed, either as workers or patrons or people who are just enjoying the White River in a new way and their community seeing some brightness there.
Yeah, and folks from Ambrose were on the show at the top of this week's show, and they talked a lot about connecting with those communities, connecting with the arts community, connecting with neighborhood groups and associations over there to really try to get input as they map this vision.
Well, I think that you're always going to have more success when the people who are in and near and impacted have the opportunity to share their voice and what they would like to see and the positive impact that can have on them.
Yeah, in terms of the kind of development this might be, Robin, they talk about a series of like 20-minute neighborhoods, which I think is interesting, being able to walk and do everything you need to do within 20 minutes. So it sounds like this development, whatever it becomes, will be unique and new to Indianapolis.
It will not. It won't be dormant anymore. It'll be a vibrant area, but also the residual of people being able to be back on Morris and Oliver, Harding, and streets back there, being able to get jobs and things related to this is going to be a big boon for the neighborhood too. So instead of hearing about sitting there and watching the development of Indianapolis and nothing happening in your neighborhood across the river, now it's coming to their side of the river and it's going to be a boon for that neighborhood.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time in your business dealings in Fort Wayne, and I think it's interesting, this massive live, work, play development here, 500 plus, probably a lot more than that, $1 million here. There's a $440 million development going on, attempting to get underway in Fort Wayne. The old General Electric campus up there that once employed, I think, 20,000. Looks like they're getting close to making it happen, going back and forth on funding, but that, again, potentially transformative for Fort Wayne.
Sure, that started with Graham Richard. Now Mayor Tom Henry has picked it up and is doing things with it now. They've got to be fiscally prudent to make sure that the money does match up. But if you go to Fort Wayne, I'm up there about every other week. If you go to Fort Wayne, you will see a vibrant downtown, baseball stadium down there, housing overlooking the stadium, a convention center that is regional in scope. Yeah. So it's a tremendous place.
Yeah, and the region up there really connected as well. Another development here in central Indiana in particular has been the increase in nonstop flights at Indianapolis International Airport. We saw a couple more take flight this week to tourist vacation destinations. But Jennifer, as you look at it, 50 plus nonstop flights now, a record for Indianapolis International to a lot of business destinations like San Francisco and Seattle and Austin, but these consumer driven destinations as well.
Well, I think it's important that they're following through on the promise they made in 2017, and that people have a place to go on vacation, right? So we have all the non-stops that we can use for our business, but now we do for vacation, so we're not driving. We're spending more time enjoying our families and our friends. And it puts us in the top 10 for non-stops at airports around the country, which is impressive for a city of our size.
And how about the asset that the airport is here? I mean, routinely, every year, the top airport in North America, and people rave about the airport. Sometimes maybe we take it for granted, but that's a real economic development asset too.
It's a huge economic development asset. And then all of us, when we travel, when we go all over the country and all over the world, and we're in airports, it's easy to see why ours is the best.
Yeah. Frank, the tech scene continues to have momentum here in central Indiana. In particular, we saw 2 deals this week, Demand Jump and HC1.com, 2 tech companies getting between them $13 million in funding. There have been a number of tech acquisitions that have happened, not just here in central Indiana, but around the state as well. And that's translating into jobs and attention for Indianapolis, too.
Well, I think jobs and attention. And the attention might be the most important part, because other people are looking at it and deals are coming here and people are finding investment. And there's a lot of other deals out there that you don't hear about that are smaller, less than $1 million. But I think it's jobs. We talked about higher education on this show a lot. People are getting to the point where they see there's jobs here. They don't need to leave. The brain drain is becoming the brain gain, hopefully.
I talk a lot about vibrancy. Go downtown and see just how much energy we have in our downtown. On a Friday night, on a Tuesday night, you're going to see the benefits of these firms bringing in a better caliber of person to live here. The word is going to go out that Indianapolis, much like Atlanta, had the slogan, "The city too busy to hate." You're going to see the same thing happen here, and I believe that you're going to see a continued upgrowth. The Mira Awards will continue to expand, Tech Point will continue to expand, and things that years ago that you covered are now coming to the full culmination of what they talked about doing.
Tech Point, the Mira Awards, in a couple of weeks, they had 900 was a record last year. This year, 1,300 capped out as well. So a good point there. The academic community, very supportive and very connected to the tech community as well. Frank, we saw more news from Purdue University late in the week here announcing another tuition freeze. But also last week, late in the week, there's not a lot of information out there on this, but Purdue confirming to us that they are making a bid to run Los Alamos, the nuclear lab in New Mexico. That's a big deal potentially.
It's a big deal. I think Purdue has a history of working with the government, produced more astronauts than any university in America. NFL quarterbacks and astronauts are what Purdue produces. But I think, it's another example of Mitch Daniels being progressive, reaching back to his contacts, working with his friends at Bechtel to say Purdue can do this. And you don't need MIT, and you don't need Stanford. Right here in Indiana, we got one of the leading research universities in this area, and they're going to make a bid at it. And, I wouldn't be surprised. Don't count them short. I would not count them out.
Yep.
The reverse of that is that Bechtel knows that Mitch Daniels is at Purdue, and they know the kind of caliber of person that he is and what they've been able to put together there, and they know that Purdue has extreme standards of admission and keeping students in there. So the kind of students that will come out of there, kind of people that come out of there, kind of staff that come out of there are perfect for this project.
Yeah, very good. As we wrap up, I always like to talk about sports. And Jennifer, you have been waiting to talk about the Pacers because I know you are a sports fan. What do you think?
I think it's really exciting.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, Coach McMillan had 10 new players. Nobody thought they'd hit 30. And look where they are now. We've got Victor Oladipo. Everybody was excited to have him in Indiana playing for the Pacers,
and
but nobody thought he'd be most improved player.
That's right. No, everybody's complaining about the Paul George trade, and look at what we got.
Right,
and,
we won.
So we're playing LeBron again.
So hopefully we get them second. Philadelphia first.
Playing Cleveland starting this weekend. It's going to be Cleveland.
It's going to be Cleveland.
Yeah, it's going to be
Cleveland.
It is Cleveland.
Yeah.
What do you think, Frank?
We beat them 3 out of 4 times this year.
There you go.
Last year, the 4 games when we lost, it was by a total of less than 20 points. LeBron's a great player, but I think we have a better team chemistry.
Robin?
Telling thing was during trade time, they said, don't trade. We have a good team. We can put a good nucleus together.
Right.
They wanted to be a team. And that was, you said that early on the show a long time ago, that they are playing like a team. And I see that they're playing like a team, and I believe they're going to win.
Jennifer, predicting an upset?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We'll leave it on that. Jennifer Polk Baker, Robin Winston, also Frank Short. Thank you all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.